Hey everybody, my name's Don. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this channel is going to focus on fishing and or anything related to fishing or anything I just happen to think of and want to carry on about. So today what I want to talk about is something that I think there's a lot of confusion on. First, let me just point out to you that I don't consider myself an expert when it comes to fishing. Uh, in fact, for those of you that have heard of Buck Perry, you may or may not know that I actually spent some time with him back in the early 70s. And one thing I learned from him is there are no experts when it comes to fishing. As smart as he was, as much as he did for the sport of fishing, uh, he taught me to be humble, to also understand that we're all students. Again, there are no experts. So if you hear what I have to say and you think that there may be some validity to it, that's great. But the truth is, there's a lot of different theories when it comes to fishing. And today, what I'd like to talk about is the spawn, the bass spawn that takes place each year. And I want to specifically talk about what happens here in the state of Florida. Many people seem to think that bass spawn more than one time each year. That's not true. I say it's not true because I've talked with many biologists. I've spoken to many marine scientists. I've also studied bass myself that I've raised in aquariums. Bass spawn once a year. Now, to put things into perspective, they may start as early as November or December, particularly here in South Central Florida, but they're only going to spawn once. And I think part of the reason for the confusion is that we see bass coming in 3, 4, 5, 6 months out of the year to spawn. What a lot of people don't realize is that often a fish will come in to spawn, and because of weather conditions, they'll move back out into deeper water and wait for better conditions to finish up their spawn. So they may start in January, and they may even drop some of their eggs, but they'll return a month later, a week later, whatever it might be, based on the weather conditions, and they'll continue spawning. It's not a second spawn. It's still the same annual spawn. One thing that, again, I think that is very important is to understand that the largest bass in the lake will always spawn first. Again, this isn't my theory. This is a well-proven theory that's come from biologists who've studied the matter for years. And what they've found is the largest bass always come in first, which might explain why a lot of folks don't see them on their beds. You know, we go out in the lake, particularly in lakes that are reasonably shallow or clear, and we see the beds, and a lot of times we don't see the big bass on them, the big females. The truth is, it's because a lot of them have already spawned and gone back out to deep water. The thing that you have to consider is that once the bass spawns, the home of the fish, for the most part, is deep water. It's not shallow water. Contrary, again, to what a lot of people may believe, you know, fish, bass in particular, like the solitude, the water temperatures, the oxygenation, all the things that they might find in the deeper water that are lacking in the shallow water. There's also safety. If the food source is available, that's where they're going to spend the majority of their time. Now, they may move in shallow to eat or to spawn, but they will immediately, move back into the deeper water. But going back to the spawn itself, what typically happens, the males come in first. The males will select a site. They'll begin to clear the site. They'll start to make a bed. And then typically they'll go back out into deeper water and they'll try to find a female and they'll push the female. They'll prod the the female with their nose until she actually comes into the shallow area and comes to the nest that this male has created. Once that happens, the females typically will drop some eggs. And I said some because they don't always drop all their eggs in the same place. Most bass, particularly here in Florida, what scientists have found is that bass will come in and they'll lay a portion of their eggs, and then they'll move on to another nest where they may drop another portion, and they may stop at as many as 5 or 6 different beds. And the purpose of this is to make sure that their genes are mixing with a variety of different males to get the best quality and the best survival rates of her eggs. And this, again, is often the reason people think that bass are spawning more than once. Again, they're not. They're only going to spawn once, but they may drop their eggs a number of different times. And what happens if the weather gets bad and they haven't dropped all their eggs? Their body actually reabsorbs the eggs and they move on to the following year. So anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, I thank you for visiting my channel. I plan to do a number of these. I have learned a lot in my 77 years, about 70 years of it, spending time on the water. And I'm hoping that I can get on here and talk at least intelligently about some of the subjects, some of the things that I've learned. This will not be just fishing, though. Just for the record, I may talk about just about any subject. So tune in if you would. Click that button down there. Let me know that you enjoyed it. I welcome any comments. I'll respond to as many as I can. And I wish you all a great day, and particularly if you get a chance to get out on the water.